Always informed.
All right, we will call tonight's meetings to order for Tuesday, March 12th. And as we start out each meeting, we will read the mission statement. Norfolk Public Schools offers a safe, joyful, and challenging learning environment that meets the needs of our diverse students. Through school, family, and community partnerships, we provide an education that inspires lifelong learners and cultivates caring and productive citizens of our ever-changing world. Roll call, please.
Jennifer Wynn.
Medora Champagne.
Jeff Curry. Paul Cochran.
Thomas Doyle.
Ingrid Lardy.
There we go. All right, so we'll start off. So this is going to be broken into two halves. First, we have our public portion, specifically to the school budget presentation, which Ingrid will now do.
This is an overview of the budget for 2020, budget request and proposal. The budget subcommittee has been working since November with input from the administrative team to shape the school budget. We always begin by thinking about the district vision and our mission. So the vision is to teach, inspire, and empower and succeed. And the mission, as Thomas read earlier, really focuses on building a safe, joyful learning environment, providing rigorous curriculum, and inspiring lifelong learning. In addition to that, we look at our strategic plan. So we have a strategic plan in place with goals for 2018 through 2020. The plan has 4 primary goals. The first is really looking at building a safe learning environment and promoting social and emotional health for our students and well-being for staff and families as well. The second is continuing our efforts to provide an engaging curriculum, to think about personalized learning opportunities, fostering innovation, and empowering students to share ownership for their educational growth. The third is around supporting professional learning and collaboration for teachers as we continue our pursuit of excellence in delivering instruction. And then the last is around building and implementing a multi-tiered communication strategy that allows us to share timely and comprehensive information with our families and also to get feedback and information back. Our budget history, this is just a long-term view of our budget history. Again, for the schools to open the way we close in June, just as a level service with the same staff, same resources, typically takes the district about 3%. In the years between 2009 to 2013, the district was faced with negative budget increases, 0 budget increases, 2013, 1.5%. So all of those years actually reflected pretty significant and deep cuts to instruction, to teaching positions, and to programs. Between 2014 and 2019, we've seen healthier increases from the town for the budget between 4.7%, 4.25%, but averaging around 4% in the last 5 years, with a total long-range average of about 3.38%. In these more recent years, again, we've been trying to rebuild and restore instructional programs and supports that had been cut during the recession years. In addition to those difficult budget times, federal and state entitlement grants and allocations have significantly declined for Norfolk since 2009. We receive about $500,000 less in funding than we did during those prior years. And there's also been a corresponding increase in unfunded state mandates that have really imposed substantial additional costs to the districts. Some of those examples are the state has adopted next generation science standards, and we have new Massachusetts social studies learning standards this year, which require us to purchase new curriculum materials, to provide additional professional development training for staff, and to look at some of our online resources. We also have required professional development. We have to provide sheltered English immersion training for staff. We have to provide suicide prevention training. We also provide physical restraint and de-escalation training. There's an increased demand from the federal and state governments for data collection and reporting, and that has an impact on our staffing. We've also, across the state, transitioned to online computer-based testing. That has had significant cost implications for our infrastructure and for our equipment. And then we also have the McKinney-Vento Transportation Act. That varies annually, but we're responsible for providing transportation to the district of origin for students that are homeless. That might be to remain in Norfolk if they choose to do that, or if a student from Norfolk moves to a neighboring town, we can be responsible for cost-sharing transportation. We've also had some significant costs, which we've discussed at the school committee level, for making improvements to school safety, including cameras and redesigning the lobby and entrance to H Olive Day, and that's in response to the increase we've seen across the country in school violence. The impact of the declining revenues and recent restorations. So again, between that 2009 to 2013 timeframe, there were a lot of positions and programs cut. We have partially restored the teaching positions that were lost during those years. We have fully restored our instructional support staff. So we brought back our developmental reading staff and our paraprofessional staff, and we were at the level we were back in 2009. We have not been able to restore the elementary foreign language program, and we have not been able to fully restore the health program. We've partially restored that. The way that we've addressed that, our students used to have physical education class once a week. They now have it twice a week. A portion of those classes are dedicated to health education. So it's not a standalone program. We are addressing the state frameworks and standards, but it isn't the full program. We have had to cut some of our technology staff. That's been partially restored. We have had a reduction in funds for curriculum materials. We have been able to bring that back. Over the last few years, the school committee, we have done a comprehensive review of all of our core content areas, and the school committee's approved new resources and funding for those programs. So that has been brought back. During the years of 2009 to 13, the school committee had to add, in order to supplement the budget, fees for transportation. That fee has been eliminated. The band fee that was added during that time is still in place. We haven't been able to eliminate that fee at this point. We have had reductions in library staffing. Those have been partially restored. And we were able to eliminate tuition for full-day kindergarten in an effort to provide free universal full-day kindergarten programming for all students. This is just a graph that will show you where we compare to the state in terms of per pupil spending. So again, that's just looking at the overall budget divided by the number of students we serve. Back in 2011, you can see there was a significant gap between where Norfolk was spending and the average state per pupil spending cost. Between 2011 and 2015, we really worked hard to try to close that gap with those years that we were seeing 4%, 4.25% increases. In 2015, we were right on track with the state for average per pupil spending, but that gap is starting to grow again. Between 2016 and 2017, you'll see that our per pupil spending has actually dropped down a little bit, where the state has continued to steadily grow. So we are conscious of that and are watching that and hoping to start to bridge that gap again. We also, the Department of Ed, based on demographic data, district size, grades served, puts together a list of comparison communities. So for our benchmark report, we always compare to the same districts that DESE has identified as comparison communities for us. In looking not just compared to the state, but also compared to our regional districts that have been identified as comparison districts. If you look back in 2015, 2016, we were close to the middle of the pack in terms of per pupil spending, average per pupil spending. In 2016 and 17, you see that drop down a little bit. 2017-18, last fiscal year, we were second to the bottom in terms of what we're spending per pupil, with only Berkeley below us. So again, we're concerned about that number and looking to continue to build our revenue and resources. At the same time, the town does see a really strong return on their investment in education. We continue to demonstrate high standards and achievement for students, with our students performing in the top 18% on state MCAS exams, and that's compared to all other elementary and middle schools are included in that comparison. Class sizes in Norfolk are average, and we do have a lower than average student to teacher ratio. We continue to offer outstanding arts education programs, so that's in the music, visual arts, chorus, and we have continue to have an award-winning band program. Our Norfolk students do have physical and health education twice a week. The majority of teachers in Norfolk also have advanced degrees and have more than 10 years teaching experience, and we have a very low turnover of teaching staff. And again, our facilities are in great shape. We have great playground spaces, outdoor spaces, and the schools are safe and well maintained. This is just a comparison of how Norfolk compares to the state on the MCAS tests. This is the ELA, English Language Arts portion of the test. You can see we continually, Norfolk's in the blue, we continually outperform the state in those measures. If you see in 2015, 2016, there was no state data reported for those years. During those years, the state allowed districts to choose to either take the traditional MCAS or the PARCC assessment. And as a result, because everybody didn't take the same test, they didn't report average state data. You'll see our scores slightly declined in 2017 and 18. That's when the new MCAS 2.0 test came in, and it was also the first time our students took an online assessment. So it had a bigger impact for us in ELA, where kids were having to write their written responses for the first time directly onto the computer. We have been working to address that and give kids more experience, so we expect to see those scores increase. As far as math, again, we continually outperform the state. You'll see in 2017 and 18, again, that's when the new MCAS 2.0 online testing, it had a lower impact in math where kids weren't doing extended written responses. But we continue to outperform the state across the board on the MCAS math test. Another thing that I think our district's really worked hard on, and if that's been in partnership with the town and partnership with other districts in the region, is to annually look for opportunities for cost savings. And when we can reduce costs, we've been able to reinvest those in educational programs and staffing. So we continue to partner with the town to share the facilities director position and to share custodial and HVAC support. That saves us about $60,000 annually in our budget request. We also have an assistant facilities manager, and that's also a maintenance position. So we were looking for someone with a general contractor license who could pick up some of those small repairs, and we could do those in-house. And with the staggered custodial staff, we're able to have somebody that is working Tuesday to Saturday, so we're not paying overtime when we have events on the weekends. We're saving about $15,000 annually in that arrangement. We also have continued to cost share professional development. So earlier I talked about how we have some mandated required annual trainings that we have to provide. We've been partnering with Rentham, Plainville, and King Philip, and with our special ed collaborative FICO in order to cost share those programs. We also have really worked hard to build in-house expertise and have some of our own staff lead those professional development workshops. So we're saving about $20,000 annually in that area. We have really worked hard to build and maintain our special education programs and to be able to keep kids educated in their home school and within the district. Last year, we added some budget resources. We added a part-time psychologist to support the social emotional program at the Freeman Kennedy. We restructured that program. With those additions last year, we'll be saving $255,000 in costs. That's not looking at all of our programs. Those are just the cost increases that we're saving based on the changes we made to programs last year. We have also worked hard and developed and implemented a plan to reduce paper use and printing costs and to be more environmentally responsible. And with that effort, we saved $10,000 last year in those contracts. We continue to explore opportunities for tuitioning students who have unique learning needs that we're not able to meet to look within our partner system. So look at Rentham and Plainville and tuition students into those districts at a cost savings. And it also is better for the kids because they remain with a peer group that they'll go on to middle and high school with. So we continue to work on that. And we also have been working hard to provide home-based therapeutic services to students that require those services through in-district staff rather than consulting or contracting out. And we're saving about $15,000 annually there. So our 2020 budget request reflects a 4% increase, which is $490,476. And this request just allows the district to maintain level services. So it allows us to meet contractual obligations for salary increases for our teaching staff. It does allow us to add 2 classroom teachers to the Freeman Kennedy School, and that's just in order to meet the demands of the increasing enrollment. It also allows us to add a paraprofessional staff position to support a 7th session of kindergarten. So we currently have 134 students registered for kindergarten. We're definitely going to need to have 7 sessions. We're making some shifts to the teaching staff, but we will have to add paraprofessional support. In order to try to come in at 4% and to work collaboratively with the town to propose a budget that the town would be able to support, we have looked at making some reductions. And again, this was in alignment with our mission and our vision statement. We really looked to protect the teaching programs, the curriculum and instruction first. So the reductions are about $2,500 from age holiday services and supplies. And again, part of that is our efforts with recycling and limiting paper usage, so that's where some of those savings are generated. About $1,700 from FK services and supplies, $2,300 from special ed instructional supplies, We do have an increase, a decrease of $27,000 in special ed transportation next year. We have reduced the professional development budget by $5,000 and our instructional technology budget by $6,500. As part of our effort, again, to streamline services with the town, we have been working on consolidating the maintenance budget. That has helped us in terms of increasing efficiencies and better purchasing power when you're buying for 7 buildings versus just the 2. So as part of that effort, we're transitioning $89,000 from our heating fuels line to the town budget, and the town will manage that cost for all town buildings next year. So it's $134,928 of reductions. The budget additions, the cost of the teacher's contract step lane changes is $320,039, and that's required by the collective bargaining agreement. We have budgeted a 2% cost of living increase for all of their staffs at a total of $89,621. We are adding 2 classroom teachers to the Freeman Kennedy School. When we budget for new positions, we budget for Masters 5 of the teacher's contract. So that cost is $139,597. And then for the 1 additional kindergarten paraprofessional, that's $22,267. So the total budget additions are $571,524. On the expense side of the budget, we do have an increase of $37,000 next year for special education tuitions. We are increasing our curriculum adoption line by $4,745, and again, we have to implement the new next generation science standards and the new social studies standards. So we do have to do some curriculum purchasing and updating. And the transportation is $12,100. That is just the cost of the 3rd year of the contract with Holmes Busing. So when you're looking at that 4% increase, 3.44% of that increase is contractually driven. 1.36% of the increase is due to enrollment. There's a 0.06 increase in special education, and then we made net reductions of 0.85 to come in at a total increase of 4. Our class size projections for next year, again, kindergarten, we will need to add and go up from 6 to 7 sessions. We have 134 students currently enrolled. We're expecting an average class size of 19.1. We will have 7 first grades next year. We have 7 this year, so there's no change in teaching staff there. 124 students enrolled with an average class size of 17.7. Grade 2 will be going from 7 to 6 teachers in 6 sessions, so it's a -1 position there. An enrollment of 118 with an average class size of 19.6. Grade 3 will remain at 7 sessions, 131 students enrolled in that grade with an average class size of 18.7. Grade 4 will be increasing from 5 to 7 sessions, and there's 147 students enrolled in that grade level with an average class size of 21. Grade 5 will be going from 7 to 6 sessions. We have 117 students in that grade. It'll be an average class size of 19.5. And grade 6 will be increasing to 6 sessions. Enrollment's 134 students with an average class size of 20.3. So the net increase of all those changes is the 2 full-time classroom teachers that are proposed in the budget. Just again, in comparison to comparison communities, I had said earlier, the Norfolk class size is average. Even though that we have a lower than average student-to-teacher ratio, our class sizes are average. In 2015-16, we were on the lower end compared to our comparison communities with an average class size of 18. You've seen that steadily increase in 2016-17. Our average class size was 21. We were closer to the upper end of the pack. And again, in 17 and 18, although our average class size was 20, we were higher in terms of comparison to those other local communities. We do expect that there's going to be some continued enrollment and growth, and so just for the town planning purposes, we've had 2 independent enrollment studies done. One was through Flansburgh Architects, and they were projecting an increase over the next 10 years of about 250 students. We also had NESDEC do a more intensive enrollment projection study that looked at the number of building permits that are pulled annually, the home sales, the average time on the market, and as well as state and federal trends. And this is their projections over the next 10 years. We're expecting an increase of 241 students, and that shows a breakdown by year. NASDAQ updates this data for us annually after we submit our October 1 data, so we should be getting an update to see how we're tracking with relation to their projections. We are aware that this increase is not something that we will be able to accommodate with the current facilities. We have been exploring potential expansion, and that's something that the town has been aware of and is planning for. Just an overview of how our budget breaks down. 69% of our budget is committed to professional salaries. Another 4% of the budget is committed to clerical salaries, and 13% to other salaries. So that would be food service, custodial, nursing staff. 8% of the budget goes to services. That's primarily your transportation contract. There is only 3% of our total operating budget that is dedicated to supplies and materials. 1% is to other expenses. Those are fixed costs, retirement obligations for sick leave buyback, things like that. And then 2% of our overall budget is spent on tuitions for out-of-district placement. This is really a conservative, flat budget request. We are trying to be collaborative. We understand that the town has some financial pressures and is trying to balance the budget for all departments. So there are things that we were not able to include that we do feel are still critical needs for the school. So we want to make sure that the public's aware. We are looking for a 0.2 increase in a special education teacher at the H. Olive Day School. Again, we have increasing enrollment, more students enrolled there. We also have seen an increase in our special education eligibility trends. So we're serving more students with the same current staffing. So we really need to look to increase that position. We'd also like to restore at least 0.1 of the 0.2 reduction in the team chair position that we had to make last year. The team chair facilitates all special educational meetings, communicates with parents, makes sure that paperwork is tracked and reports are out on time. And that's difficult to do with just the 3 days that we have. We would like to see an increase in our developmental math staff with a teacher and a paraprofessional shared between the two buildings. To support the students that need some extra individualized instruction in mathematics. And we would love to continue to look at ways to restore the world language program. That's a significant cost of about $126,000, which we were not able to budget for. And the other area of need is we'd like to look for an increase in custodial summer help. The reason for that is that our buildings are now used more often by the rec department and for longer periods of time. So both, we have a capital project going on this summer at the H. Olive Day, so all of the rec programs will be located up here. Leaves a very short turnaround time for the custodial staff to clean the building and get things ready to open. Again, on the expense side of the budget, there are two things that we haven't been able to include that we would like to really consider. We still want to eliminate band fees to create greater access to that program for all of our students and families. That's a cost of about $24,000. And our current technology replacement budget is very limited. It will not keep up with the aging equipment that we have in both buildings. Freeman Kennedy, all of the building equipment, all the computers, all the resources were purchased at the same time. Building's been open for 7 years, but as part of a state project, most of the technology was 2 years old before it even was put in. So we're looking at equipment that's aging out at 10 years. At the H. Olive Day School, most of our instructional smart boards in the classrooms are also hitting the end of life expectancy. So while we have a plan for replacement for next year, over the next few years, we're really going to have to think about increasing that line item in the budget to sustain the environment that we currently have. And I'll take any questions from the public or from anyone.
Summer custodial staff, if Norfolk Rec, do they rent out the buildings, or is it just so it's just because it's a town?
It's a town resource, and so they do not rent the space.
So they don't have to pay for extra custodial?
No,
It's
and
absorbed.
most of the programs that run in the summer are 2 hours or 3 hours. We do also have our own district programs running at the same time, so we have special education programs, we have tutoring programs, so our staff does maintain the bathrooms, but they would be doing that anyway for the students that we're serving.
Right.
Rec takes care of their own spaces that they use, but they do not pay a rental fee. Any other questions?
No? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
water over this.
Okay.
No, that's all right.
Actually, I haven't used this one.
All right.
This is unopened.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so we will adjourn meeting 1 and go to meeting 2. Those keeping track at home. And we're adjourned. And we're back in. I will not read the mission statement again, so we just went over that. No one's left, so I don't think the roll call is particularly necessary. So we will go right on to correspondence. Actually, let me get my glasses here, bear with me.
No public comment?
Negative. And let me see, what do we have here? Okay, so we have 2 funds we need to approve, which is a bank and then the Dave Young Foundation, $400 for library books for Freeman. And then Action for Healthy Kids, $250, which is mini grants for physical education here at Freeman as well. So in total, these gifts are $650. Do we have a motion to approve those gifts?
Make a motion to approve the 2 gifts as stated.
Second?
Second.
Any, assuming no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much for those generous gifts, much appreciated. Okay, going on to my portion of the evening. So Ingrid and I were at part 2 now of the town administrator search. I think the last time we met, I think I'd given an update that we had to revisit the issue because the person that we had offered the job to wasn't able to take it. So then we restarted the process again with some new resumes as well as the folks that had previously put in before. So we had a meeting on the 28th in the morning. We went through all the resumes, selected out who we wanted to interview in person. We interviewed a number of folks all day Saturday. And then tomorrow, the select board will be meeting and essentially conducting the interviews on the finalists that are in place. I don't know if the number, do we know how many people are actually finally interviewing? I know there was a question.
I believe the committee put forward 4.
There was 4
I
that-
don't know if
okay.
they've all accepted
Okay.
the
So it's-
opportunity to interview.
Right, so there's a possibility of 4 folks may get interviewed tomorrow. So we'll just have to see, wait, that plays out. So then I don't know if that will conclude tomorrow evening or not, but that is the plan as of right now, is the interview to take place tomorrow for that. So ideally, we have a town administrator in place relatively soon, which obviously is very beneficial to us. So that's all I have of that. I don't know if there are any questions on that, or?
Of the finalists, were there some that were finalists previously, or is it a new set?
That was my question as well.
No.
I like that.
And I have to say, Ingrid wasn't part of the first round of this. The second round of this, I was really, really impressed. These are really good people.
Great.
Like, we will do well with any of them.
Excellent.
So I know that's easy to say, like, oh, no, we'll be fine, but I'm actually really being serious. These are all very good individuals.
qualified.
Yes. Very impressive, all conducted themselves very well during the interview, all had very good ideas, all would bring a lot to the town and be beneficial to town. So no matter what direction it ends up going, I would be fine with any of the candidates.
Excellent. Good.
So I think you.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Any other further question on that? Okay.
Thank you.
Now we go back to Ingrid.
All right. At our last meeting, we voted the school calendar for 2019-20. As soon as we voted it, I received information that the primary elections for 2020 have been scheduled for March 3rd. And Freeman Kennedy School is a polling site, so based on the anticipated high turnout, we're definitely going to have to close for that day. So we are proposing 2 revisions to the calendar that you approved. The first is changing March 3rd to a full professional development day where we would be able to relocate our workshops to the H. Olive Day School and keep the Freeman Kennedy campus open and clear for voters. That necessitated a second change because we had originally planned for March 4th to be a half-day professional development day. We don't want to do that back-to-back since we have to close the 3rd. So we're proposing that we take the March 4th half PD day and we move that day to a half-day PD day in November instead. And we're suggesting November 8th, which backs up to the long weekend because families have said typically that that's an easier time to arrange childcare prior to a long weekend. So we're proposing the half-day be November 8th, and that March 3rd be a full-day professional development day. Those are the only two changes. So we're requesting the committee revote the revised calendar.
Okay.
Ingrid, I have a question, possibly a request. I know kindergarten typically gets out a week early, is that correct still?
Yes.
Okay. I think just from a parent planning point of view, if that was on the calendar, I think it could be helpful. I just remember my first year, I was like, what? They're getting out a week early? What do I do? Like, what? Now I know, Norfolk families.
But it was really calm like that, too.
Good idea.
So just, as I think it would be helpful.
Yep, we could put that date on.
So I missed the last meeting, and I don't know if this was discussed or not, but two pieces of feedback that I had, I didn't know if were considered, was Jewish holidays. Were those considered in the calendar at all? And we're good with that?
Yep, we're good with that.
Okay, great. And then coordination with the KP schools?
Yes, so we were able to coordinate a lot with the KP.
Okay.
A lot of the early release days now mirror the KP schedule.
Great.
So we have a different number by contract, so there's some that are not aligned because they have more half-day releases than we do.
Great.
But we tried to align the ones that we could, and we tried to align the full-day PDs with KP. The one difference is that we still have a pre-Labor Day start,
Okay.
and by contract, KP can't start till after Labor Day.
Okay,
So
great.
there is a difference in start date, but we tried to align the rest of the
Right.
early release. and
That's great.
dates.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, so do we have a motion to accept the 2019-2020 calendar revisions as stated?
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
The next thing is annually, we have, the school committee has to make a decision about whether or not to choose to participate in the school choice program. So the policy of the Norfolk Public Schools has to be to admit non-resident students under the terms and conditions of the inter-school district school choice law. The committee does have a right to withdraw from participation in that program annually, and you have to vote on and have public discussion prior to June 1st. In the past, and again this year, I would recommend that the district not participate in school choice. It's been the priority of the committee to maintain as low class sizes as possible. As you can see with our projected enrollment, we have our class sizes already increasing. While you can increase your revenue by bringing in school choice students, once you've extended an offer to a student, they're allowed to remain in the district until the transition. So if we took a first grader, they would have a right to remain with us all the way through sixth grade. And we just, with the building that's going on, I think that's risky for the district in terms of class sizes. So it'd be my recommendation that we continue not to participate in school choice. I gave you some additional information in the memo in terms of what you bring in for revenue. It's about $5,000 per student. There is a special education clause that if a child receives services, they adjust that based on average state rates for services. But again, I don't see it as a good decision for us right now based on enrollment and concerns with that. Any questions?
Okay, so do we have a vote to maintain not opting in to school choice? And just to be clear, a vote yes will be to maintain the current policy, just so we're clear on that. So do we have a motion on that, please?
Make a motion to maintain our current policy.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of maintaining the current policy?
Aye.
Okay,
So I just want to clarify, it's current practice, because the
Sorry.
policy allows it, it's our practice to not participate. The next thing, we had, Dr. Tupper was here last month, and she presented an outline of the special education preschool programs. It was her recommendation at that time that we do not increase the tuition rate for this current fiscal year, but that next year we review how our rates compare to the region and to the other communities. So we had not listed on the agenda that as a vote item. So we relisted it today, so we're looking for a vote to approve the preschool tuition rates at the current rate with no increases for fiscal 1920.
okay. Do we have a vote to maintain the preschool fees as stated? Or a motion, excuse me?
I'll make a motion to maintain the current preschool fees.
Good second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
The next item on the list is is from our tech director, and it's about liquidating our 2009 MacBook Pro laptops. This is equipment that's at the end of its expected lifespan. And what she is recommending, she's reached out to several different vendors and is recommending that we consider selling the equipment to Second Gear. And the purchase price, they will purchase each of the Mac Pro laptops for $240 each, or give us a store credit price of $253 each. We have 70 pieces of equipment that are aging out, so that would be about $16,800. If we sell them at the purchase price, $17,710. If we use a store credit with this agency. They provide all of the equipment for shipping. They handle that cost. And then we would be able to use that to offset some of our technology equipment replacement needs. So by policy, the school committee has to vote to sell or donate equipment. So she's requesting a vote to allow them to move forward with liquidating the 2009 MacBook Pro laptops.
Okay. Do we have a motion to sell the MacBooks as stated?
I'll make a motion to sell the MacBooks as stated.
Second?
Second,
Discussion?
yes. As part of their purchase, are they wiping the hard drives?
Everything's wiped and erased, and they send them as a blank book. We do it.
Okay.
We're wiping everything before we ship it.
Okay.
They said we checked with a number of vendors, and I assume this is
Yes, this was
what's
the
out
best
there?
price she got. She checked with 3 different vendors.
Would there ever be a time we would, store credit, would we ever revisit these folks or anything, or does it make more sense to just take the cash for it?
No, we have actually purchased some infrastructure
okay.
equipment and Wi-Fi equipment, AeroHive equipment from them. So we would possibly, depending on what our needs are, probably go with the store credit option.
Okay.
But they are waiting on, they bid out some equipment pricing through the E-rate program from the state, so they're waiting to see what they can get through that, and then we'll make a decision as to whether we want to store credit or to reinvest.
Okay, got it.
How long is the quote good for?
I believe 30 days.
What's the deadline then?
She
April
just got the
12th?
quote earlier
Yeah,
this week,
yeah,
so we
this
would
is
have-
dated March 12th.
Yeah.
So we'll have to
presume-
decide on this before the budget is set.
Or you could vote to
Provisional
allow
approval.
her to decide which is the better option based on their equipment needs.
Oh, I agree with that.
So then we wouldn't have to bring it back here. They could just move forward.
I like that plan. Any further discussion on that? Questions? Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Next, we're requesting a budget transfer. So this year, we do have some savings in our budget for special education tuitions and for special education transportation. We are requesting to move $35,000 out of special education tuitions and $15,000 out of special education transportation, and we'd like to move those, $25,000 of it to instructional technology and furniture. As we talked about, we are falling short of our tech replacement needs. We'd like to use some of the savings in this year's budget to replace 5 smartboards at the H. Olive Day School that we know are going to be aging out. So $25,000 to instructional technology for the purpose of replacing 5 smartboards at the H. Olive Day School, and the other $25,000 into HOD security improvements. Our alarm system at the H. Olive Day has had continual issues. It's a wireless system that doesn't work well in a concrete building. We've tried to improve it, tried to fix it. It's not functional, and we need to replace and put in a new alarm system to secure the school. So that would be $25,000 into that to allow us to do that project this spring before we begin the roof repair project over the summer.
So just to clarify, it's functional, it's just not.
It is not currently functional. It is.
So there's no alarm
There is
system?
not an alarm system. The building is locked and it is monitored, but it is not alarmed, and the police are aware of that. When we alarm it, it's sending false alarms constantly.
Right. Yeah, that's important.
But the building itself is locked, and all classrooms within the building are locked. And again, the police are aware, so they're monitoring it. But we don't want to continue in that.
That's why I saw police in the parking lot at night.
Probably.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So we need a motion to approve the budget transfers from special ed tuitions and transportation into instructional technology and HOD security improvements.
The accounts we're transferring from, does this still leave us some money in the event
Yes.
something happens? I know we're getting
Yep.
towards the end of the year.
Todd
but
felt comfortable with those amounts.
That's a figure he's,
Yeah.
okay. And that 25 for the smart boards, that would partly go to that 125 that was in
Yes.
the, okay.
Yep. It would help us with that shortfall.
Okay. All right, so do we have a motion to do the budget transfers as stated?
I make a motion to definitely transfer that money, as stated.
Do we have a second?
I second that motion.
All right, no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
And the last item is, since we didn't have any public comment, our feedback from our budget hearing would be for the school committee to vote to approve the 2020 budget request with a 4% increase for the next fiscal year.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve the fiscal 20 budget as presented?
Make a motion to approve the fiscal 20 budget as presented.
Standing. We have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you to everyone for your help with that. All right, so moving on to King Philip Committee Report.
I was not able to attend the last meeting, so I
That makes a very
do
quick
not
report.
have an update.
We will see you next month.
Yes.
How about policy?
Policy. Oh, notes. Let's see. We reviewed the online fundraising and solicitations, basically the crowdsourcing, crowdfunding policy. It's a first draft that we reviewed. We had some recommendations, so before we even bring it forward for first review, we're going to get some additional language related to parent involvement for creating crowdfunding requests for classrooms and for individuals, just to set some guidelines related to that. So that's pretty much it. We also identified some policies that we'll be reviewing over the course of the next few months. That's it.
Very good. I'm assuming nothing further with budget, given you guys have been sort of the star of the show this evening? Okay.
The only thing is that we were waiting for an appointment to present the budget request to the advisory board. I think that process is a little bit delayed this year without a town manager. And I think, because we typically go the beginning of March. I spoke with Sue Jacobson the other day, and they don't have a date yet, but we expect within the next few weeks we'll be asked to present to the advisory board.
Because town meeting is what day in May? May
Certainly, like,
It's the
10th?
second Tuesday. I'm not sure of the
Okay.
date. It's the
So
second
we're-
Tuesday.
Getting into it a little bit, okay. All right, moving on, we just need to approve the
14th.
meeting minutes for the February 19th meeting. So just the three of us voting on that? So when you get a chance, if we have a motion to approve those minutes?
I need to abstain from that.
Likewise. I will allow that.
So a motion from Medora or Jen?
I move to accept the February 19th meeting minutes as presented.
Have a second?
I'll second.
So the options are pretty limited there, between this, so. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, aye. And 2 abstentions. All right, so we are set for April 9th for our next meeting. Is that okay for everybody?
Yes.
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 So as of now, that is it. And unless we don't have anything else, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Okay.